Welcome to my second space exploration speedrun. My previous run was completed in 169 hours, but with more planning and less idle time I hope that this run can be under 100 hours. Each episode will be in 2-hour sprints sped up to 4 times speed, which should hopefully drop the total episodes to be around 50 with 25 hours of gameplay. After, I may also make a recap video of the significant moments in the run. If you look at the description, I have an imgur album of the previous run, a mod list, and any other details that I may forget to add in the video. As you could see at the start of this run, I grabbed a couple of coal rocks. I also mined up some of the spaceship wreckage because you can get free iron from it. Throughout this run I'll hopefully show the milestones page just to display how the run's going. Also, you can see in the thumbnail you can see the milestones page of the previous run. Ideally I'm trying to rush to bots as soon as I can so that I can have the bots build the factory for me. The early game there's a lot of running around and dealing with burner stuff. I did a little test run before this and I found that instead of going straight to electric miners, it's actually better to just use the burner miners because they're cheaper than the electric drills. So as you can see here, I'm just scaling up the iron and stone as quickly as possible. I'm also grabbing some more stone for more furnaces. The challenge of space exploration is to visit and build bases on other planets. Some planets have resources specific to that planet. The primary one that I'm going to be aiming for first is going to be vulcanite and iridium. So vulcanite will give me access to the beacon research, the production science. It'll also give me access to ingot smelting for iron, copper, steel. And the ingot smelting recipes have a natural productivity bonus, but they also provide module slots, more module slots than normal, so you can increase the productivity you gain per ore to plate. As you can see here, I'm just setting up the really basic red science. Just a lot of hand feeding in the early game. Some of the other resources on the other planets will be beryl and holmium, and cryonite and vitamelange. And then there's a deep space resource called naquium, which you can only get by using a spaceship to go out into deep space, which usually takes about 20 minutes of real time. So you want to make sure that you've got many ships and you're doing a lot of different transport runs. There you can see I got the first automation at 12. I probably could have done it faster, but it doesn't really matter. It's all about scale at this point. It's important to strike a balance between pushing for higher tier technology and getting production up. Obviously, since it's 100 hours, I'm not going to run it all at once. This is a segmented speedrun, so I'll be creating save games every 2 hours, and I'll be compressing the 2 hours down into half-hour videos. I thought about doing just 2 times speed up, but 4 times speed up isn't too bad. And if you do 4 times speed up, you can also use the YouTube player to increase it by 2 times again. Since it's probably going to be around 25 hours of watch time, even at 4 times, I want people to be able to watch it, so. So this is the starting of the main base. Basically create a whole bunch of miners to create coal, and then that coal can then feed the mining, the smelting, the assemblers, all that sort of stuff. In this run you'll see me use a lot of blueprints. You might assume that everything is planned, but not everything is planned. I might have sessions between 2-hour segments to build and design more things, but it's going to be a combination of building things that I've designed and coming up with things on the fly. The main things that do have designs is the Norvey space and the space base. Here I wasted quite a bit of time just fiddling with the belts. For a run so long, it doesn't really matter micro-optimizing every little thing. It's more generally about like getting the production numbers right, focusing on the right objectives, that sort of thing. Like if I can get to bots as quickly as possible, I don't need to build the main base. I can go do other things like setting up mining outposts and setting up rails. Poor man splitter. Using burner inserters to put coal onto the other side of the belt. Here, when I first placed this, since some parts of the map aren't explored, it meant that the blueprint didn't place all the way. I don't know what I want to do about that. I think I should probably separate the blueprint into separate parts so that I can do like stage 1, stage 2. Turns out you don't actually need electric inserters for this. The AAI Industries adds the burner inserters where they can take coal out of the machine that they're pointing at to take items out, but they don't take coal out onto the belt, so they can serve themselves but they don't serve the belt. Which is an interesting functionality that I think that they should probably add to vanilla. Here I'm just setting up the first electricity for the assemblers because I don't actually have coal on any of these belts up here. So my objective with this is just to start the assemblers to create the inserters and the belts so that I don't have to handcraft as much. As soon as I can get this early production running, the sooner I can go work on increasing the mining and manufacturing. Making sure that the science base is running so I can get the science done as quickly as possible. Burner miners are very slow. They don't even produce one belt, or half a belt. Here I'm creating the electric engine units. They're basically early game electronic circuits equivalent. We still have electronic circuits in this mod, it's just that the early game is very different with AAI Industries. So we don't actually need electronic circuits until we get to fast inserters and the tier 2 assemblers. Here I'm trying to figure out how I want to get rid of the copper and to feed the electric motor assembly. Also, I switch over from a normal inserter to long-handed inserters because they're actually faster, even though they don't require the green circuits like a fast inserter does. Here I'm setting up the fast inserter production. There we go. Now I'm setting up the copper smelting, so I don't have to manually hand feed it. Trying to figure out where's a good place to set it up. Siphoning off a little bit of coal for the burner drills. Putting stone pass down is actually pretty good in terms of making sure that you can run places quickly. Another poor man splitter because I don't actually need that much coal on the line because that's the line for the smelting. Here I'm still setting up a bit of stone smelting so that I can make the tier 2 furnaces, and then this is me trying to figure out adding in the power pole production because that's the one thing that I didn't add to the mole for some reason. Power pole production automated, which should help with smeltery building. And then this is me setting up the red science up here in the main base, so I can move the lower base production so I don't have to visit it all the time. The most annoying thing about these ghosts is the ghost power poles, because they look like they're a real power pole but they don't transfer any power. They also connect to the real power poles and stop two power poles that should connect that are real but not, because it's like it takes the wire. Here I'm setting up electric inserters for the copper smelting, and then this is me setting up a bit of stone mining. I don't know what's better going for here, stone or steel. I think it's about the same. Also, as I said, the going for electric mining doesn't really make sense at this point, because it's more expensive and doesn't give you as much. The nice thing about AI Industries is that the electric mining drills actually take the burner mining drills. It's not like all of the burners that you create are a waste. You don't sit them in the box once you're done with them. So here I'm trying to increase the amount of iron to a full half belt, and that should be able to support my beginner mole and science. A lot of handcrafting still because I'm not confident about my mole production rates. Here I'm setting up the steel smelters. Well, the steel furnace production. This is the first column of steel. There's a lot of trees. This main horizontal line is for all of the fuel for all of the furnaces. I start out with coal and then I move to solid fuel later. The routes that some of these resources take, it seems a bit weird, but it's mostly just to keep everything organized and tidy. Like, a lot of the time I send it up to the mini bus and then send it back down. Also, this isn't really a main bus, not everything goes in the same direction, some things go left, some things go right. That's mostly to just reduce the amount of total belts that I need. Some bases that you see are mostly bus and not much base. One of the other things that I tried to do is to have a lot of space between the different sections. So we have the smelting, then the intermediates, then the secondary intermediates. But between each of those blocks, there's 4 to 8 to 12 lines available to route resources between builds. I'm just increasing the amount of coal that we have because we're running out. The objective is to get to blue science and bots pretty quickly, but here I'm researching grenades to get rid of trees, because the trees get in the road of building the base. So I just picked up all of the labs, and those are going to go up in the main base section. This is going to be another line of iron. I think I don't manage to finish this. Yep. So this line is for steel. Here I'm setting up more electric motor production for the mall, because a lot of the items require electric motors and the starter mall only has 2 machines producing them. So this is going to be the second and third iron line. So that I count steel differently because I don't actually put the iron onto a belt with steel. So this extra line of iron is going to be for both steel and for the extra iron for the mall. And then I move to electric at this point because the mall has already produced about 30. At this point you can see a bit of spaghetti forming at the bottom of the smelter column. I didn't have a plan for the bus at the bottom, so it's kind of just winging it. Later on I fix it. So here I'm upgrading to fast inserters to try and increase the production, so I have a personal supply as well as a supply for the labs. I must have completely skipped over the fact that we got green science. The science is less important than just getting the scale up in terms of the mall production. So currently a lot of the machines that we're producing the mall are limited on resources, so this is trying to increase the production rate. You might be able to see that all of these smelter columns will eventually be steel columns, which means that they use a bit of the red belts in order to get the throughput. So each of these columns will eventually produce 2 belts instead of just 1. So here I am routing the iron to the small motor production, which is for the belts and the inserters. I'm just doing all the researches required to get up to blue science. Still a lot of handcrafting despite having them all. I couldn't imagine doing this lazy bastard even though it's technically possible. For those who don't know, Lazy Bastard is a achievement that you can get by not crafting anything. AEI, since it gives you a assembly machine when you start, technically makes it Lazy Bastard because you can not handcraft anything. Here I'm just dropping off all of the furnaces that I produced before in the smaller base. And I'm also increasing the number of labs so that we can do research a bit faster because the belts are full. Here I'm picking up some more coal for the assemblers because I ran out with the end of the line coal. Here I'm using these boxes to dump off a bunch of copper, but then I pick up some so that I just have some for handcrafting. Because you need bits of copper for power poles and inserters and that sort of stuff. Here I change where I want to reinsert the resources, so I previously had it up top, but now I moved it a bit lower so that the inserters have a chance to pick up from that line. I also forgot to fuel the electric motors for a bit. Here I'm getting the regular motors actually working because I forgot to put the power in the inserters. There we go. So that's running, so that'll help the belts and the inserters. We'll always need more iron. Base game, modded, always a lot of iron. Now I'm doing ultra spaghetti here. So here I'm moving the coal line to a separate belt because I don't want to have to do half and half. I get distracted by doing other things though. I think at this point I have the, I set up the other assembly mall production? No. This is where I set up grenades for trees. So I just take off a little bit of coal from the end of the smelter column. And I think I already researched the second grenade explosives damage, so that it's only one grenade to kill the trees instead of two. Yep. So this is where I set up the smelter column for the copper for the electric motors, but instead of doing a full column, since I have the steel furnaces, I can just do half a column and then that'll be a full belt. The convenience of the builds above is that I can use either one belt or the full belt. So it's got expandability in mind, but I don't need to build the full column before I can start producing. And then this is where I have the coil assemblers take from both the box and the belt. Clearing out some more space for the electronic circuits, even though I don't actually use a separate column yet for the copper. I usually just take from the existing copper column and then set up a stone column, because with this mod pack the electronic circuits don't use iron, they use stone tablets, which are a product of stone bricks. Here I'm focusing on the mining productivity so that I can get a higher production rate from the miners, because the productivity doesn't just give you extra resources, it also makes the miners faster, because you get 10% more per drill. This is where I finally set up the assemblers. Here I'm trying to figure out how I want to increase the coal putting on the line, because that line isn't just feeding the furnaces, it's also feeding the grenade production. And here I'm clearing out the area for the first green circuit production. And then I need an extra stone line to feed that green circuit production. Here I'm switching up how I'm feeding the stone furnaces so that I can use both sides of the belt. I set up the coal insertion onto the line at the column instead of further towards the mining. This is a conundrum that I always face. Do I handcraft on site, or do I walk all the way back and then all the way here to get it from the mall? I don't know why I stood there. I think I was thinking. Looking at the production, making sure that I've got enough gears, which I was lacking. I upgraded the gear assemblers to the tier 2 version. Well, technically the tier 3, because burner is tier 1 or tier 0. And then I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier, but having 2 inserters from the belt assembler means that one of the boxes can feed the green science, but then the other box can just sit there for personal use. Because I was having a lot of troubles where I didn't have any belts for myself, it was all going to science. I only set up half of this stone column because I'm not going to do full production yet. This is just to get some green circuits instead of focusing on all green circuits. Here I'm setting up the production for the fast inserters. So I need to grab the inserter and then push it across the line and then feed the fast inserter. I don't know how I'm going to manage to fit stack inserters in that section. I'll figure something out. So now we have the tier 2 assemblers automated. I'm just rearranging my hotbar. Now we should have a bunch of stuff for setting up more power. So we were using the burner powered things which don't require any water. But now we're moving on to the traditional vanilla steam engines, and I'm just deciding to where to put it. I'm going to be putting it right next to the coal. At some point I might want to switch this from coal to solid fuel. And this is the point where I didn't have enough pipes and the mall doesn't even produce pipes, so I just reset up the iron production at the thing instead of walking all the way back. Here I'm trying to decide on what I need to research next. We definitely want modules as soon as we can, but we need to have the oil production and stuff. Obviously need some more coal production to supply the new power. And also the new smelting that I'll be setting up. Here I'm trying to get rid of the old base. I'm not going to use it, plus I can use the miners. I can upgrade them from the burner to the electric. Here I'm dumping out the ores that I picked up. I'm putting the copper away, I'm putting the coal into machines that just have inventory space. So in this video we set up the red-green science, we set up the beginner mall and smelting, and in the next video we'll be setting up oil, blue science and robots.